Alright everybody, game number 1 of the day is now about to start, or at least our draft is about to start. Whatever is playing versus CC. And yeah, this is going to be a pretty fun one. It's a best of 1 actually, and not a best of 3 just yet. It's the first round of the ZOTAC Cup Monthly Final. Chromie is allowed, but as you can see already, we have right off the bat bans on Illidan and on Greymane. The map is Sky Temple. And yeah, let's check out what the teams are drafting here today. We have, of course, now with the, new patch, the new meta is a little bit more warrior heavy than it was before. Teams are starting to be a bit more confident again into double warrior setups, and it's not so much a single warrior that is supported by a double support. Oftentimes we even have only one range damage dealer. But especially Arthurs and the Nuborag have become kinda popular right now. Arthurs can fill a couple of roles. He can be the main tank. He can be also a very aggressive bruiser at the front line. So there's a couple of things that we could actually see here today. Whatever, starting things off with the Kalthas, and of course Kalthas is still incredibly powerful. We've actually seen a couple of variety in builds. The most common build is still a focus on living bombs, but we also see him every now and then with just a little bit more of a focus on his flame strike, which can actually be quite powerful too if you complete the quest talent. For now, we're having whatever starting their draft off with him, and a Tassadar immediately for CC. And that is actually now once again a hero that can, of course, to simply empower a Thrall. And a Thrall on Sky Temple is overall pretty sweet. You have that bot laner that you kind of need if you want to dominate the solo lane, and then you can always have the Tassadar plus maybe an additional support helping him out during the team fights as well. So that start here for CC could lead us into an early Thrall pick. They could go into a Sonya instead. Thrall and Sonya, probably the most common bruisers that we have right now for the teams. But there's a couple of ways how they can actually handle this right now. There have been a few teams that also play a certain Tracer style, and this is one of the maps where you can go into something along the lines of an Abathar mixed maybe with a Tassadar and support Tracer. But that's more something that Evil Murkies, for example, are going to do. And CC is actually dropping, at least for now, the melee warriors, and instead they're going into Falstad. So that gives them a global, of course. And globals on this map in particular are pretty important. If you're running a global, then usually the idea is to soak experience as long as you can on the map. The heroes that are most commonly known for it are the Haka and Falstad. We have an Abathar that can chip in, and also every now and then the Vikings. But Falstad is also allowing you to disengage quite nicely. It gives you a bit more control when you're fighting over the boss, and just overall the hero is of course fantastic, especially after the rework. You have the auto attack build, which has become a bit stronger, but you can still go for a Gathering Storm Boomerang build here without any problems whatsoever. Whatever, on the other hand, they're going into Rhaegar as their support, and so far it looks like that's probably going to be the solo support. They could theoretically throw a Tyrande into the mix as well, but it's more common on maps like Cursed Hollow, where you can actually achieve a disrupt on the channel with the Owl in addition to that. Not as much value with the double support setup on Sky Temple as you would get on another one, considering. A Thrall to round things up here in their second phase, and that means that it's very likely that they're going to ban out Sonya. So CC would have that Tassadar support, maybe the second support as well, but they don't have any of the heroes at the front line that they can really empower with this. They could throw in a Nuborag, they could throw in an Arthurs, but Sonya is most likely going to be banned out by whatever here. Whereas CC, with their bans, could try and target one of the frontline heroes. Muradin is oftentimes a very high priority on Sky Temple in particular, just because he can easily stand on one of those temples and soak all of the shots of the objective. But right now we have so many different warriors available to you that it's always a bit tricky if you are trying to just like ban or target ban against your opponent. Another hero that is oftentimes banned out is of course ETC, since ETC can really just like claim a team fight back with a good mosh pit. And if you have the damage, especially if you have an initiate stun with the Sundering and then ETC slides in with the mosh pit, you can actually do quite a bit of damage there. And that might be one of the things that they are worried about. But they ban out that Muradin that we just mentioned. So apparently the plans on the side of CC already a bit different. They're not trying to pick Muradin up themselves, which would have allowed them to jump into the opponent's backline. Could see a Johanna and the Sonya ban as already expected. I mean, we've been talking about that a bit. But let's see how a CC is actually going to draft at this point. They have a few options, as I mentioned before. They could go into Johanna here still, but we have that Nuborag and also that Arthur's around. And if you really want to go into a bit more of a Tassadar double support focus build, you could use that. They are going into the Tassadar together with Tyrande and an ETC. Actually a pretty smart move with that. Tyrande wouldn't have really fit into the setup of whatever, but for CC it's actually a very nice combo, since they have the two utility supports and they have access to Mule now as well, which they could actually use on this map. Whereas we are seeing, of course, with ETC, a pre-stun that Tyrande can capitalize on by dropping her own stun, getting a bit of a CC chain going. Blizzard nerfed most of the stuns just recently, but it's still a very powerful tool, of course, to burst targets away, especially if you also like have a single target damage dealer like Falstad right behind you. So it's a pretty cool setup for them. A lot of damage here already, a lot of utility that they have, vision on the map as well. And they could still capitalize that with a second. They could bring in a bruiser type, Arthur's focusing a little bit more on damage. They could go for range damage. They have a lot of flexibility in their draft right now. And whatever, they pick Johanna. Makes a lot of sense for them to actually go for a Johanna here. But a bit more range damage would probably be a really good option. Li Ming, I would like it. I would really like a Li Ming here. We have seen Li Ming on Sky Temple get a lot of value for the team because she has a lot of poking power. It's also a little bit of burst up damage that you have there. So I would really like Li Ming to be dropped by them. And that's exactly what they do. They go for her. Whereas CC has now a few options of how they could play it. Personally, I'm a fan of them going into an Arthur's. It would give them even, on an Uberak, Arthur's and an Uberak would both give them additional CC that they can use to just put additional stun onto a target that was already stunned out by ETC and Tyrande. I think Arthur's, when it comes to the damage output, might be even a bit better for them and has a few more options in the later stage of the game to also like survive there. But on the other hand, if you are trying to dive the backline, then an Uberak would be the better choice. They might also go into something completely different. I mean, we have seen teams, for example, focus more on a Zeratul, which in this case would also be a pretty solid hero for them to use, since he can just put additional pressure on Kel'Thas and also on Li Ming. It's definitely a bit of a... It's a bit of a preference pick at this point. The setup is already quite strong. I actually would like a Zeratul, I have to admit. All of the heroes that I mentioned would fit really nicely, but they have other options too. They go into that Arthur's on the other hand, so they have additional lockdown after the stuns of ETC and also Tyrande. So it's that bruiser type that they have. They're lacking a little bit of initiation here, but they have with ETC at least that power slide available to them to close the gap and then really force the battle. And that's also quite nice. As I said, I could have seen a Zeratul too. I think he would have been a great addition to the setup that they're running here. But I'm pretty happy with that Arthur's, to be honest. I'm a bit surprised that he has such a low priority for both the teams that he's picked last, but overall he's definitely a solid pick here. So guys, we're going to jump into our first game here at the ZOTAC Cup Monthly Final today between Whatever and CC, and jumping in here on Sky Temple. The only map in this first round of the tournament, and afterwards, following rounds are all going to be best of 3. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Welcome to Game 1, everybody, here today at the ZOTAC Cup Monthly Final, and we have already a bit of a change with the draft that we just saw. Apparently that Arthur's as the last pick was not quite intentional, and it seems like both teams agreed that the team to the left, CC, that they are able to just like switch the particular pick up here. So they have Sphyxy on Vala now instead of on Arthur's. Mopsio is playing ETC, we have Lunan on Tacita, Raid Boss on Falstad, and Cilium is playing Tyrande for the CrowingCocks. To the right side of the map, it's Rhaegar on Curson for Team Whatever. We're having Tank on Thrall, Lumpy on Li Ming, ETF on top on Johanna, and Tazu is playing Kel'Thas in his first game of the day here. When it comes to the setup, we're having, of course, quite a bit of CC on the side of the blue team here, and also a huge damage output, especially with Vala now being added to the lineup here. The Siphoning Arrow taken as the level 1 talent already, so a bit of a difference in build. I mean, most often, or most commonly, we are still seeing the multi-shot hybrid build where you try to go for the auto attacks. But these days, it's a little bit more popular, again, to also go into the arrows, and oh my god, that Rhaegar burst was pretty heavy. Like, that was unfortunate for them. A nice setup here for the CrowingCocks, going straight in and making sure that they get not only the stun lock but also the burst damage to take down Rhaegar. Now Tazu is in trouble as well. Cilium is taking a lot of damage from Tank, but that double kill to open up the game gives the blue team already a very significant advantage going into the early game here. Also Raid Boss here, as expected, on Falstad with his auto attack build. And that's a little bit different now from what we've seen in the past. By the way, just a quick indicator, we're having currently down here 2.4 damage. There is currently a bit of a bug that Blizzard unfortunately implemented with the last patch, where it shows on the season marksman stacks, if you don't hover over it, 26 instead. That's basically like a decimal error. It shows 28, but it of course means 2.8. So yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit overall. For now though, just like checking that out, we have for Raid Boss the first few stacks up. And with that kill on Thrall just now, that's of course increasing quite rapidly. He's already on 4 extra damage, and that's only 1.5 minutes into the game, so these kills against the heroes definitely helping out with that. Rhaegar going, by the way, for the Wolf build. It's a bit more popular these days to use it with a Feral Heart on level 4. if you go the full Wolf build. And then you have, of course, the option on level 16 to go also for the percentile damage, which is oftentimes a nice addition to the setup. Level 4, quite early now already for the blue team. And this is really that lead that they get a bit through these early kills. 3 kills against 0, and it's something that we kind of expected, of course. I mean, if you look at the setup that the blue team is running here, then the first thing that really comes to mind is that they are running a setup that is really relying heavily on these snipes. It's a sniper build. It's really just one of those builds or one of those compositions where you try to get your early game kills. And that's what they're doing. It's what they have to do. Doesn't mean that the red team is completely crushed here, but it means that the red team has to be quite careful now. Because their whole purpose is to not die in the early game too much, and they already suffered 3 hero deaths, so they need to be a bit careful about it. But we have both of the teams now on the level 4 talents, where of course, with Johanna now taken out, making that 4 kills. The setup with Tyrande and ETC is a very old school setup, but you can already tell how powerful it actually is. The red team is falling farther and farther behind. Falset even flying down in time to soak the entire wave here. Great play by Raid Boss. Very nice timing on his part. Thrall was pushing that wave in, was probably already hoping to deny at least 1 wave of experience to the blue team, but Falset flying in secured the entire wave, so they're now a level ahead against Team Whatever. Very nice start into the game for them. And they're already starting to focus on a few of those siege giant camps, try and push that back. The blue team doing extremely well, and they have level 7 now to actually help them out even more. That means repeating arrow and puncturing arrow. One of the cool things about the arrow build on Vala is that you're a little bit more open to changing it up on level 13, and with the setup that they're running up against with the Li Ming and the Kel'Thas, it's actually kind of likely that we're going to see a spell shield on Sphyxie's part. At least that would be the... I would say the smart choice. Since you're up against a lot of ability damage, that will help you to stay alive a lot more. Falsa is by now on 11 extra damage. We're seeing him also with the secret weapon as the level 7 talent, and the hammer gains taken on 4, which is these days extremely popular. It goes so far, we sometimes see not only Giant Killer on 13, but on 16 then even the extra speed after you're using the barrel roll, and on 20 the Nexus Frenzy. You can actually get a lot of value out of that, so a very streamlined auto attack build that Falstad users are oftentimes executing these days. When it comes to the builds overall, having for Kel'Thas the Netherwind now taken, we're seeing the Fell Infusion as a level 1 talent for the additional ability power, and we have the Gravity Crush as well. Tyrande decided to go into the standard build where she just simply goes straight into the Owl build, and Tassadar of course with Kala's Embrace on level 7 to really help to empower his teammates with a preload on those shields. The really interesting thing is that we're having a bit push at the bot lane, and if they are able to take down the well before the temple is being fought over, that would be great. They get the first few soaks in, and that temple, or that well already going down, kind of gives the red team now a bit of an advantage in the fight for the objective at the bottom. And this could actually result in the blue team not even going for it. It seems like they're, at least for now, trying to just simply push out the mid and the top and getting extra experience over there. ETF is currently trying to counter soak, and he's doing a pretty good job doing that. But Falstad at the top lane is dominating this one, and he has an entire bruiser camp to actually back him up. And that could be devastating for the fort at the top. The objective that is now still claimed by the red team, on the other hand, is getting a lot of value, and Kel'Thas is making his way up to the top. So the entire level lead that we currently, or for a long time, had for the blue team is more or less gone already. But the blue team is now starting to chase. They're going for Tazu on his Kel'Thas. He's extremely low, and there's the kill against Kel'Thas. He's already dead, and ETC is moving in to try and take down Johanna too. But ETF is moving back, is able to survive here. In the meantime, we're seeing Thrall getting some value down at the bottom of the map. Level 10s are now also in play, and we have the Mosh Pit, we have the Starfall taken. Both of the teams are actually still busy up at the top lane. We have now a level 10 for both of them. Besides that, Strafe, Mighty Gust, Force Wall has been chosen. We're seeing now Rhaegar, he's going into the Ancestral of course here. Sundering, Phoenix, the talents on the side of the red team, and the Wave of Force against the ETC Mosh Pit, with Johanna also picking up the Blessed Shield to make sure that she gets a bit more value and potential interrupts against ETC's Mosh Pit. A bit of a trap already set up here by the red team, and up to the top lane we're seeing also, after another wave has been cleared out, at least 2 of those trying to sneak in to maybe get a kill against Celium. and if not, then at least take down one of the towers. So far, the red team is actually starting to catch up in experience a little bit. The rotations here are actually quite important. Down here on the other end, the mosh pit on ETC is already active. Tazu is in cooldown. Here comes the strafe on Sphyxy. Very well played here. And another kill for the blue team. They steal away the camp now too. Mobs here was not interrupted on the mosh pit. Was well played here. Netherwind was already out for the gravity labs on the side of Kalthas, and therefore there were no interrupts available to them, and that's the kill against Rhaegar that we saw there. Really well done in 6 kills against 0, but still level 11 versus level 12. So not really, it's not a disaster just yet for the red team. They definitely have chances to come back into this match, and I mean, we are heading slowly and steadily into level 13, and those talents are going to be absolutely crucial. The temples are once again announced, and this could actually lead to a battle where level 13 is going to play a huge role for the blue team. But here's the interrupt, the invasion on the camp. They're trying to move in. Tazu is there. Phoenix is already out. It's still in cooldown. And there's the star for the lockdown and the kill, the double kill, the triple kill. Kalthas, Thrall, and Johanna are all 3 dead. Immediately Lumpy trying to escape here, but guess what? Falstad flies in, and that is the end of Li Ming. Great kill. Level 11 now secured as well. A camp pushing the bot lane, and of course everyone is starting to go straight for these temples now too. Falstad heading straight into his Giant Killer on level 13. Boss is even taken here at this point. And Falstad actually already at 25 extra damage on his season marksman, 8 minutes into the game. His quest talent is, well, about to be completed. He needs 15 more and he's going to be golden here. And will get that extra auto attack speed that he's of course yearning for. We're already seeing ETC at the bot lane. The boss plus a Siege Giant camp is currently pushing the bottom, and Tazo's the only one trying to defend here. They can already kiss that fort bye-bye. There's absolutely no way to save that. Tazada on the top is on the other hand dying, and that is actually a kill that should not really have happened. That was a 2 versus 3 more or less that you actually saw there. And in this case, we're having now still 1 temple that could potentially end up in the hands of the red team. It's a 2 versus 3 once again with ETF moving in. Oh, unfortunately, not hitting too much with that Blessed Shield. Sundering went through too. Both of the teams on 13, which now gives us on Thrall also the Giant Killer. And Kalthas finally going into the Pyromaniac, getting that cooldown reduction, whereas everyone else is still starting to defend here. 14 against 13, still 1 level, and interestingly enough, Vala going into the slow. So the one thing that the Frost Shot really does for Vala in this setup is it keeps Thrall a little bit off her back. I guess that's something that really can help here to get a bit more control in the team fights. Personally, I'm not quite sure if that was the best choice, considering that Li Ming and Kalthas are going to be able to push out a lot of ability damage, and I really feel that a Spell Shield would have probably been a bit better here for them, or for her. But overall, it's definitely one of the tools that you can work with if at least the fight is already in your favor. And maybe you are able to escape with that as well if you are... Oh, well, actually, I'm still thinking about what they could go for on level 16. And I suppose we could maybe see an Executioner talent here, but I don't really think it would fit too well into the build that Vala is using here right now. Overall, the damage output is still pretty solid, though. I mean, Vala is currently looking at 16,000 damage, which isn't too shabby. Falstad is on 18,000, and he's, of course, going to increase that quite heavily once that he's able to complete his Seasoned Marksman quest talent and also pick up the 16 and 20 talent. But overall, he already has a very nice damage output. The Tazada kill, by the way, that happened up at the top was the first kill for the red team, and we're seeing 16 versus 14 right now, with 10 kills for the blue team, for CC, against only 1. At this point, there it is, the Afterburner. As already mentioned before, this is starting to become a bit more popular on Falstad, since now that auto attack build is so nicely streamlined, as Blizzard has changed talents around for Falstad once again. We're also seeing the speed medal for ETC. There's a lot of mobility right now during these fights that the team in blue is favoring, and they can pressure the red team quite nicely. The one thing that Falstad probably has to take care of is that particular camp here at the bottom of the map, on the other hand. That's going to be a bit of an issue, because that's more and more value that the red team is getting out of it. So Falstad eventually will have to move down and take care of it. And already flies in, tries to take that down, which gives the red team maybe a chance to go into the middle and soak one of the temples, or at least try and get maybe a kill. Their problem is really that they don't have the level 16 talent yet, and that's of course a very powerful tool that you have in these fights. Not only do we have the additional mobility on Falstad, but also Tazada with the Dimensional Warp is now in a situation where he can just easily actually heal himself up once again, having range on Tyrande for the extra damage output. And besides that, blood for Vala, which is of course an incredible tool if you're just trying to stay alive and maybe zone someone out. For now, ETC going in. Nice Iron Skin use on the side of Johanna. Well played here. Not getting stunned out yet, but Curson is very low. Eats the owl as well and is still trying to escape here. Is able to get away, but yeah, Rhaegar dying would of course have been a disaster. But they're buying themselves a little bit more time in which they might actually... Ooh, nice hit actually by Lumpy here. In which they might be able to just pick up a little more experience so that they are able to claim level 16 and fight against the opponent. Right now, things are still looking a little bit grim though, as we are seeing the CrowingCocks going straight for the mid and also the top right now, trying to get both of these temple shots for it. But level 16 is just around the corner for Team Whatever. The only question is really, are they able to pick that talent up before both of the objectives have completely been soaked? And at this point, it seems like they might be a bit out of luck here. They're moving up to the top to get another wave out of the way. And that should be the experience that they need. There's the 16 with the Mirror Ball. We're also seeing the Sun King's Fury once again. Rhaegar went into the percentage damage, as I said before. Hunger of the Wolf going the full Wolf build, more or less. And we have at the same time now the level 16 talent for a bit more sustainability for ETF during those fights with the Holy Renewal, so that he gets a bit more heals out of that. It's definitely an interesting setup that we're having right now, because finally the red team can fight again. The problem is, can they really make sure that they get the engage that they need? And if Rhaegar is sniped, that would be a disaster for them, and that's exactly what happens. Rhaegar too far out of position, and he gets immediately annihilated, and now without the healer, there's very little chance of them actually taking the fight. Spixie somehow survives. Thrall dies. ETC also dying as Rhaegar was taken out, but without a healer, it's very difficult to make these fights happen. Once again, the owl travels across the map, but everybody dodges out. Raid boss by now is on 38 extra damage already. That means that he only needs a few more waves until he has the 40, and therefore his quest talent completed. So a very solid situation right now for Falstad to get even more damage output here. And when we're talking damage, he is already at 29,000. He's also looking at a very strong output when it comes to siege damage as well. So currently with 82,000, we're seeing also everyone else just simply trying to focus on a few of the camps anymore. The red team from the beginning has been struggling to have an impact in these team fights. The CC chain is just too strong, and the problem is that Rhaegar is being picked off quite a bit. He's way too far out, and positioning is currently a bit of a problem for Kersey. He needs to stay farther in the back when these fights happen and make sure that he's not taken out. In 3 of the fights, he was a bit too far out, and the blue team is able to capitalize on that ruthlessly and just don't leave him a chance to move back and heal his team out. So therefore, his healing output is also quite low. He's only on 21,000 heal because he just can't get the Ancestral through, since he is usually the primary target. Once again, great ETC mosh pit, but it gets interrupted. Here's the Ancestral. Tacita nearly down, but already Kalthas eliminated. ETF is trying to get away, but he has no chance on his Johanna. Once more the power slide ready, and this is the end of Thrall. Raid boss is blowing them all in with a mighty gust. He has his quest talent completed already. There's the kill. Level 19, nearly 20, and the boss is open on the map. The only hero that is still around here is Li Ming, and she alone will not be able to stop this. A camp is pushing the bot lane, is getting some value for the red team, but it's really not looking pretty for them. Currently with 16 kills against 2, the blue team is just in full control of this match. They have incredible damage output, as you can already see here, especially Falstad at this point is just getting so much out with his auto attacks. Johanna doesn't really have a fun time against him, and now with the level 20, this is just going to continue. A double Storm Shield is going to make it so much more difficult for the red team to get any kills in here, and we're having now Vengeance taken on Vala for extra damage. We're seeing, as predicted a bit earlier, Nexus Frenzy for Raid Bosses Falstad. And that together with not only the level 1 talent with Season Marksman, but also the hammer gains now, and Secret Weapon is of course going to give you just incredible damage output. Basically, it means that if you use your Secret Weapon, you get 4 auto attacks out instead of 3, and you get, of course, an incredible amount of value out of your level 4 talent, the hammer gain. So you have a lot more sustainability in these fights, and damage output too. ETC is down, a bit too aggressive here by the blue team. They were trying to force too much. This oftentimes happens when you find yourself so far ahead that you feel you can't really lose anything anymore. Lunan might actually fall here now too. Oh! Is he actually able to get away? Looks like he might, and Tank is trying to chase him down. There's ETF. and Lunan should fall this time. Tank will have the Wolf ready in just a moment, and that should be the end of him. But the kill against Tacita, if it actually happens, and it might not, to be honest with you, then yeah, they get at least some experience. Already Tirana rushing away, Tacita at the top is finally dying. Down here we have ETF very much alone. But if they get level 20, the red team might still be able to make a bit of a comeback. It's actually a bit crazy, like, talking like this, because we have 16 kills against 4, and so far the red team has basically just been obliterated every step of the way. They haven't lost a keep yet, though. I mean, the one at the bot lane is nearly down, yeah, but they haven't lost one. So all of these waves, there's not a single lane that really pushes heavily against them, and they are starting to get closer and closer to their level 20, and that would go a long way to put them into a position where they can try and fight again. And they are about to take down a keep up at the top, and that's a pretty big asset. But it's a 5 versus 4. Yes, they have the 20 talents against them, but still, Li Ming dies. That shouldn't really have happened. Here comes the interrupt against Vengeance. Tank is low, though. They're fighting against a 4 versus 4. Curson is dead once more. ETF isolated and taken down. And that's the blue team once again securing kill after kill. Celium is on maybe 20 hit points when that fight ends, but he's still alive. Tazo is falling too. Sphyxy is going to be blown up on the other hand, but it's still not enough to give level 20 over to the red team. The shots on the temple can now be soaked again by CC, and that should actually drop the keep. I mean, that's enough shots to take the first keep in the game down, but we're definitely going to see some of those 20 versus 20 fights. Give you guys a bit of an idea with not only the deaths, but also the damage output. Vala, thanks to Vengeance, has actually been able to even overtake Falstad. We have 45k now in damage against 44k. Besides that, on the other hand, we're seeing Li Ming still with solid damage output. Kalthas is doing whatever he can. There's the first keep now eliminated. They go for tank once again. They're seeing the Master of Flames taken on 20 for Kalthas. Indestructible for Johanna. That's going to help ETF top a lot. Falsa, by the way, flew down and sniped the second keep. That was a very important move here. He saw an opportunity because everybody else was busy at the top lane. Flew in and took it down. And now we're seeing also, after the wave of Force, the upgrade on the Storm Talon on level 20 for Li Ming going into the Repulsion, and we're also having a Storm Shield for Rhaegar. It's at least a 20 versus 20 fight right now, but overall, let's see how exactly this is going to work out for the red team, if they maybe have a chance to come back into this. The one thing that I really want you to keep in mind is that this is still a best of 1. We are currently in the first round of the ZOTAC Cup Monthly Final, which means that whichever team is in a situation here and wins the game will advance to face off against CLG in the next round. The loser will be out. And there's still the potential for the red team to turn this around. I mean, Heroes of the Storm is always one of those games where if you don't capitalize on your advantage enough, then you can be punished for that. And that could definitely happen here. But Mopsio and his boys, they took down 2 of the keeps. They're looking pretty strong here right now. But Tazo has now a lot of damage output now. Lunan is experiencing that first hand. Already ETF gets healed. No indestructible proc just yet, but they're trying to engage hard into the opponent. Mighty Gust is blowing them back now, though. ETF is at the front line once again, but Raid Boss is paying attention and moved back. Tazu is also trying to get away here once again. ETF gets stunned. Indestructible procking already. The bombs are spreading. Mopsio is retreating. In comes Lumpy with a bit of extra damage, but he needs to be careful. Sticks in the stun. Here comes the Shrink Ray. They're trying to disengage, but the Starfall is already there, and that's the end of Thrall. They just took too much time to disengage here. Great Owl hit also against ETF and Tazo on Johanna and Kalthas, but not enough to drop the 2. So right now it's still a 4 versus 5 situation, and another 3 seconds until the temples are going to be alive again. The problem is that if they claim both of the temples, it's going to be an easy win right now. It's really one of those checkmate situations where Falstad is already claiming the bot lane here. Falstad in this case getting shots up at the top. It's Tacita, and most of the structures, all of the structures are actually already gone. The only thing that still survives is that core, and even if they can claim the top, it's already over. The game is over, boys, because that core is losing way too many hit points, and Falstad in the bot lane alone can easily claim it. That's why Li Ming is currently trying to make her way over here, but the core is already about to fall. Li Ming comes in, Kalthas is down, everybody's dying. She's trying to use Repulsion here. Raid Boss can just simply fly over to the core if he wants to, but this is game, and we see CC advance to the next round of the ZOTAC Cup Monthly Final. Congratulations, well played, and GG.